Hey, what's up, everybody? It's just Charles Sabanson, and welcome you guys to another episode of the DREAMERSPRO show. We'll cover everything from sports, hot topics, classic debates, entertainment. We'll give you guys a fresh perspective on things and how we see them. And today we got a great show for y'all. But before we get into it, please make sure you like the video, sub to the channel. Make sure you follow me on Instagram. My handle is CTABANZ. So, as you guys know, the biggest story in the NBA right now was surrounding Chauncey Billups, Damon Jones, Terry Rozier. Then last night we broke the story of Ty Lue being also mentioned, head coach of the Los Angeles Clippers. Of course, Kevin Garnett was also mentioned as well. So we did that. But the day the news broke was, I believe, the second day of the NBA season, and it completely took over the airwaves. Like whatever you had planned that day, you had to change it up because this became the #1 story around the league. And everybody talked about it, but probably the biggest platform to discuss it was ESPN First Take, featuring Stephen A. Smith and others. And on this particular day, Stephen A. Smith was there, and a few other members of ESPN were there as well to kind of weigh in on this subject. So everybody went. Monica McNutt, Jason Williams, and others spoke on it. But then Stephen A. Smith decided to take it to a whole different direction. He took aim at Donald Trump and was essentially accusing the president of, targeting the NBA. Right. And this is making it personal, and he veered off in a different direction. So I want to just quickly give you a quick refresher of what he had to say on First Take, because it ties into what's being said now. Take a listen to Stephen A. Smith here.
But there's a macro perspective that everybody has to pay attention to. And this is where I come in. We're sitting on here on the sports show doing First Take. We all know what other stuff that I do. We know what world that I live in terms of politics. How many times, for one incident after another, have I said, Trump is coming? He's coming. I'm going to say it on national television again. Bad Bunny is performing at the Super Bowl, and all of a sudden you hearing ICE is going to be there, looking to engage in mass deportations. The Super Bowl, disrupting things. Big night for the NBA. Wembanyama put on a show. That has now been smeared because we're talking about this story, okay? Remember, Trump has a long, long history connected to the world of sports because he had those casinos. Where do you think folks were coming half the time? I'm not talking about individuals. I'm talking about the culture. When people want to go to a casino, when people want to gamble, when people want to party, or whatever the case may be. This was his kind of connection to that. Why am I glad you're here, Monica? Because don't be surprised if the WNBA is next on his list. Mm-hmm. Because when you've got all of these protests that have been going out there and people that have been protesting against him and what have you, this man is coming. He's coming. And I've been saying it for a long time. And to me, this is the latest nugget of evidence that we're talking about right here. That's not to question the legitimacy of the case. We don't know. We're all sitting up here and we're saying that we don't know. But anybody that has been around him, anybody that has talked to him, anybody that has seen his reactions from the sports leagues and the positions that people have taken, they are not surprised at what's going on today. I'm watching a press conference with the director of the FBI. Yeah. Tell me when we've seen that. We've seen accusations before. We've seen athletes get in trouble with the law before. You don't see the director of the FBI having a press conference. It's not coincidental. It's not an accident. It's a statement. And it's a warning that more is coming. Mm-hmm. And that's what they're saying here. And everybody better, I'm just telling you, mm-hmm. It's as serious as it gets. This ain't the platform for me to get into it the way I'm going to get into it. But I've been saying he's coming. He's coming because in his eyes, folks try to throw him in jail. In his eyes, he's innocent. They try to put me behind bars. I'm getting everybody. He's not playing. And so this, in a lot of people's eyes, talk to people in the NBA, talk to people in the NFL, talk to people in the world of sports. They think this is like the tip of the iceberg. These are the kind of words that are coming out of people's mouths. It's not a surprise. It's very disheartening. It's very concerning. We don't know where this is going to go. But this is just the tip of the iceberg. Everybody's better brace themselves because he's coming.
Excellent. So you heard what he had to say. This morning, just looking for what to discuss, came across a story here on Awful Announcement stating the following. ESPN dropped the ball on NBA's breaking news. ESPN showed his ass, and unfortunately, the full moon is never going away. All right, so let's get into what this article had to say. It said early Thursday morning news broke that Portland Trailblazers head coach Chauncey Billups and Miami Heat guard Terry Rozier were arrested in connection with separate FBI gambling probes. Hours later, FBI Director Kash Patel held a news conference outlining the case, which alleged that Rozier intentionally removed himself from a March 2023 game due to an injury after a suspicious number of wagers were placed on under props for his various stats. After the bets cashed, Rozier received a $200,000 at his home. The article continues on. In another era, ESPN, the worldwide leader in sports, would have spent all day with wall-to-wall coverage of the scandal. Frankly, the story deserves such coverage. Yesterday, that was nowhere to be found. ESPN's typical daytime lineup of Get Up, First Take, and the Pat McAfee Show went forward without preemption. And how each program handled the day's top story says a lot about ESPN's ability to cover breaking news such as this in 2025. With the initial news breaking around 7:30 a.m. Eastern Time, Get Up was understandably left scrambling to cover the story, but didn't touch on it until almost 8:40 a.m. when host Mike Greenberg gave a short readout of the circumstances. Greenberg again gave a short readout of the news at the top of the hour, but Get Up did not do a full segment on the story until about around 9:30 a.m. Along with the busing crew was NFL analyst Dan Orlovsky and NFL insider Adam Schefter. Get Up couldn't even get an NBA reporter on there, much less someone who could have provided actual insight about the case. And then the article just went on and on. Then it gets to the part where they talk about Stephen A. Smith. He said at that point, Smith explained the story, aired a few clips from Patel's press conference, then brought on NBA insider Shams, who did his best to cosplay as a legal analyst despite having no such background. It didn't take long for Stephen A. to take the story into fantasy land from there. In a 3-minute diatribe, which I already played for you guys, that deemed only tangibly related to the FBI probe, Smith took aim at the Trump administration, repeatedly saying he's coming for professional sports leagues, seemingly because the NFL shut down his bid to purchase the Buffalo Bills in 2014. And then the article went on to entail a few other things as well. It was a pretty long read. Anyway, what are my thoughts about this? Well, look, generally when news like that happens, you're usually caught off guard, right? And when you're like the worldwide leader in sports, you need to make sure that you're organized, you have the right people talking about the information. But when the news is just breaking, you're usually just scrambling to get information, right? And these shows are happening live. Now, we go live from time to time, and sometimes we have to go through that process. Sometimes you don't have time to prepare and set this up and set that up. Sometimes you just have to go. And organizations that are as big as ESPN, sometimes it's hard. When you're that big, you move slower. Right, when you're smaller, you're more nimble. You can just do things quickly. You don't have to go through different channels of not leadership, but channels of control. Okay, do I need to get that? Okay, from this guy, that guy, this guy before I go. So it's a totally a different thing. And maybe they weren't prepared to handle the situation. A lot of it seemed like they were doing it on the fly. But to be quite honest with you, that's what a lot of people were doing on the fly. It was a breaking story. Right? It was a breaking story. Sometimes when we cover stories, as we're talking about it, new information is coming out in that moment. So you have to now do research and all of that. But viewers sometimes don't understand that. But then again, ESPN is a worldwide leader. They have a lot of money, and one would expect them to be able to cover these things at a high level with precision as they're happening because of the level of their resources, human resources or human capital that they have at the ready for them. In terms of what Stephen A. Smith said about the FBI director Kash Patel, well, he pushed back on him. We did a show about it. He then went on his show, First Take, to kind of double down, not First Take, Straight Shooter, and tried to double down on his position. Some people called him out for it. As you heard him talking about it, like if you saw his face, you know that Stephen A. Smith looked a little bit shaky while he was talking about that, because when you say these kind of things, you have to substantiate it. And if you can't substantiate it, then people can now turn around and say, hey, you're just making this up. Now, I agree with some of the stuff that he said. Yes, it could be true that the president is coming. He's made it clear. You heard some of the stuff that's going on about the NFL the halftime Super Bowl show with Bad Bunny performing. Some people seem to be vehemently against that. But hey, this is why you're in a $100 million seat, and you're in a $100 million seat, and sometimes that seat gets pretty hot. These are my thoughts. Whatever you guys think, please leave your thoughts and comments in the comment section. We catch you on the next show, and I'm out. Peace.